Chaos everywhere. You feel it everywhere, right? Look at the news. Just look at your social media feeds. It's loud. It's angry. And sometimes it feels like no one is in charge anymore. It feels like the world is running on a brutal rule. Everybody does as they see fit. No one cares about the other person. Everyone just does whatever they deem fit that pleases them, that suits them. That is a quote. It's a core problem from a story written thousands of years ago in the ancient book of Judges. And it's a warning. We are desperately in need today. We really need to hear it. We all think we know what true darkness looks like, right? A looming villain, a great war. But sometimes the darkest chapter isn't written in fire and fury. It's written in silence. It's written when people decide to look away from something they ought to pay attention to. When they choose comfort over conscience. Tonight, I want to take you back to a time in ancient Israel, a period the Bible describes simply, there was no king. That's the description. Everyone did what was right in their own eyes. They didn't care how the other person feels about it. They didn't care if they harm the next door neighbor. They only do what pleases their hearts, what is comfortable for them, and not what is comfortable for the other person. Imagine a world without a moral compass, where fear was louder than duty. I'm going to tell you a story of a Levite and his wife. A story that begins with a simple act of travel, but ends in an act of horror. So profound, it changed an entire nation forever. Yeah. Everything about this story is just horror. A lot of times, it's not just a tale of violence. It's a mirror reflecting what happens when hospitality dies and a community decides that one woman's life is less valuable than their own peace. Do you understand what that means? It means a life of a human being is less valuable. Their peace is more important than the life of a human being. Please pay attention, because the real horror in this story I'm going to share with you today isn't the deed itself. It's not the action itself, but the response to the horror is what seems to be unbelievable. It's the question, when evil knocks, do you open the door? Or do you stand up and say, no more, enough is enough? This is a powerful choice. The unnamed Levite's wife in the Judges 19 is often called a test of terror for how she was silenced, objectified, and abused by multiple men. She was not regarded to be anything. This is about a woman from Bethlehem, a name lost to the dust, a story swallowed by the shadows of Gibeah. You can imagine a human being has no name. Till today, as I'm telling you this story, nobody knows her name. She's addressed as a woman of Bethlehem. That is how invaluable she's being regarded. She's less valuable. She wasn't an accessory. She wasn't a bargaining chip to start with. She was a human being. And she had a voice, even if no one listened. In this story, a man was traveling with his wife and their servants. It was late, And the evening became very, very dark. And the servant asked the master, can we just spend the night somewhere around where this location where we are in the city? But the master said, no, we need to get to our own kind, get to our own people before we can pass the night. The man believed on the location where he was going to, that when he gets there, he's going to find safety. When they reached the place meant for their own kind, according to him, their own people, an old man approached him and asked him and his wife and his servant if they could come and pass the night at his place, because they were at the gates of the city. They didn't really know, have anyone to run to their house. So the man said, come stay in my house. And the man offered them food, offered them drinks, and entertained them. While they were having a good time with the man that hosted them, some worthless men just came from the town and they surrounded the man's home. And they started banging on the door, asking the owner of the house to open the door. And the man came out and said to them, why, who is knocking on my door? And they said, we know you have a visitor in your house. Can you bring him out so we can have sex with him? And the old man said, no, my friends, please don't commit such a horrible crime against a man who is a guest in my house. Let me send you my own daughter. You can imagine. My own daughter who is a virgin. Or even send the man's wife. You can rape them or do whatever you decide with them. But please, don't do such a horrible thing to this man who is a guest in my house. So you can see, the old man is protecting the man and is ready to trade the women. It looks like the women didn't mean anything. Women are like objects as far as this story is concerned. The men refused to listen. They said, no, we want the man. And now the man, whose wife and servant was in there, pushed his wife out because he knew they were not listening to the hosts and they were going to come for him. Instead of him facing the danger before him, he pushed his wife forward. He pushed his wife outside and they closed the door. The men raped the woman. They abused her all night long. Multiple men with one woman. It's horrible to say the least. Finally, when they were done before sunrise, they let the woman go. The woman was broken. The woman was devastated. She couldn't move. She couldn't walk. But she managed to get back to the house where her husband was. And when she got there, she collapsed at the door. Because all this is because she's a woman. She collapsed at the door and she stayed there all through till sunrise. When her husband woke up in the morning, he was ready to leave, according to the story. You can imagine someone whose wife was with multiple men outside. He had the eyes to sleep and wake up and he wants to leave. I asked myself, where is he going without his wife? Anyway, to continue the story, when he opened the door and went outside, he found his wife lying at the door with hands on the doorstep. And then he tapped her, get up, he said. It's time to leave. But his wife didn't move. He lifted her body onto his donkey and he left. When he got home, he knew the wife was dead. She's gone. Multiple men with one woman, she passed out. The man was so angry when he got home. He took his butcher's knife and he cut the body of the wife into 12 pieces. He told some messengers that works with him, take one piece of each tribe, to each tribe of Israel. One piece of the woman's part to each tribe of Israel. And ask everyone if anything like this has ever happened before in Israel. This story tells us how men offered her up like a piece of bread to silence their larger hunger, including the man that was meant to protect her, the husband. She was offered up like a piece of bread in order to quench their own starvation, their own hunger, their own thirst. They saw a woman, a wife, someone's daughter, and their minds translated her into an object. That was how she was treated. Something to be taken away, something to be thrown in the trash, something to be treated like a log of wood. They decided her words, her faith, and her silence. But my question is this: where was the line in the sand? Where was the line in the sand? Not the line the attackers crossed. That was a canyon of depravity. I mean, the line the good men failed to draw. Where is the line? The line of basic respect. The one that says her body is her own. He has the right to decide on who she gives her body to. The one that says her no is a fortress. The one that demands a clear, honest, and enthusiastic capital yes before a single step is taken. You don't go touch a woman without her consent. You don't go touch a woman without her giving you the right to do so. But these men did not think she was anything that they needed to hear her voice. It's sad. Very sad. What happened to this woman is terrible. It's very, very sad. That a woman, a human being, aside from being a woman, she's a human being created by God. And someone treats her like a trash. It's so sad. It's terrible. I believe when a woman says no, her no should be no. Her yes should be yes. A lot of time before you cross boundary with a woman, it's good to seek her consent. It's good to be sure to know that she's comfortable. It's good for you to know if she likes it or if she doesn't. When a woman is silent, it means no. When a woman is tired, it means no. That's what it means. We need to come to a point when we get to understand what a woman wants. We have to stop treating consent like a difficult, complex negotiation. It's just simple. Everything short of a yes is a no. That's the truth. Anything short of a yes means no. When someone is silent or tired, it's a no. That's what it means. A person who is incapacitated is a fundamental, absolute no. You can't force them. It's the easiest boundary in the world to understand. Yet, we have built a culture that specializes in excuses for blurring it. They make it look like her words is not needed. That woman, I mean that very woman, the one with no name, the woman of Bethlehem, she was a prophecy. Yes. It's a brutal warning. Her story still echoes today in every report. Every hesitant confession, every survivor who feels like a footnote in someone else's headline. So listen to the silence that has outlived her as of today. Let it teach you to speak out. I say this all the time, speak out. Not just to preach, but to interject when the need arises. You need to find a way to always make sure your voice is heard. Let no one silence you for any reason. To step into the space and say, no, not here, not to her, not ever. A human being is not a thing like some people think it is. A life is not a chapter to be used and discarded anytime you deem fit. No. When you honor another person's complete sovereign right over their own body, you are not just being kind, you are defending the very bedrock of humanity. Draw the line. Hold the line. And for the one whose voice was stolen, let your vigilance be her eternal echo. And this is where tonight's episode ends, with the story of this Levite's wife that hurts me so badly. It makes my skin, my body shrink. Not with justice, but this story is with a nation reeling in horror, finally shaken into action by a gruesome display. This is a call to conscience. Think about that final desperate act. It grinches my body. The man cutting his wife's body into 12 pieces and sending them across to the people. That was a terrifying, extreme alarm bell. Because the people pretended not to hear. Because they shouted, this woman screamed, everybody in the house was screaming. When this worthless man was outside, everybody around kept quiet. Everybody pretended they couldn't hear anything. He was forcing complacent viewers and witnesses to speak out, even when the victim is silenced. And the only way he can ring that alarm bell is by chopping, butchering his wife and take it to them so that they will know this evil actually happened in your land. Because they pretended not to. A lot of times when victims are silenced, even the people who witnessed it also go silent. Why? Evil abounds when people are quiet. When you are silent, you know what you are doing? You are protecting the attacker. You are keeping the attacker's secret safe while they walk free. And the victim remains in bondage. They don't have freedom because that secret is still with them. But the moment you, that is a witness, that can come out and speak on their behalf, and you, that is a victim, that can say, no, I'm not going to keep my attackers safe while I remain in bondage. The moment you're able to speak out, change will come into the land. The people of Israel, after they saw the chopped human parts that was sent to all the tribes of Israel, that was when they finally mobilized. But only after the unspeakable has happened, which is the death of the victim. If only they screamed out that night when the woman was shouting, when they were screaming and telling those men to leave, if they came out to speak, maybe that woman would still be alive. So what does this 3,000-year-old tale have to say to you and I today? It reminds us that our greatest vulnerability isn't always an external threat. A lot of times, we're always looking at someone outside. We're looking at foreign enemies. A lot of time, the enemy is always within. The enemy is that neighbor who sees that evil going on and decides to keep quiet. A simply no makes a difference. The tragedy in that town called Gibeah wasn't just the rapist. I tell you the truth. It wasn't just the rapists. It was the entire town, the community who prioritized their own safety over protecting an innocent woman. They stood by while a human being was being killed and destroyed, and everybody was quiet. This story forces us to ask the following questions. One, what are we complacent of? What evil are we ignoring in our communities, in our cities? When we see injustice, when we see vulnerability, when we see evil, darkness, are we acting with the conscience of a unified people? Or are we simply doing what is right in our own eyes and letting others die, letting others suffer, letting others be destroyed? The past is a warning, my friends. Our voices, our actions are the only things that can prevent our own chapter of no king. Our own chapter of people doing as they deem fit. Don't wait for this extreme alarm bell to ring before you make an adjustment. Don't wait for the extreme alarm bell like the one the husband whose wife was killed had to do. Wake up today. Speak out now. That is the only time things can be made right. This is all I have for you today. Thank you for joining us on the Night of Secrets. Don't forget to visit us on Facebook at Women of Certainty International, to subscribe, like, and comment your thoughts. Till we meet again, I remain your host, Edith Dominic. Have a nice night. Thank you.